I think Tarantino is super jelly of this movie because I think that where Pulp Fiction especially is just all like pastiche and there's no soul to it. And this movie is heart and soul and emotion and three-dimensional characters, and PT's doing QT better than QT. And and that's the biggest compliment.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everybody. It's one fucking hour time. I am Evan Husney, of course, and this is the show where we have just one fucking hour to talk about one goddamn movie. To my left, we got, as always here, Big T, Tom Fitzgerald. T, what's going on?
Hello. T? Oh, what's up? Just hoping for lots of gerunds tonight, you know. Like,
that's right. Tom Fitzgerald, here we go.
Just here for the gerunds. Yeah.
Okay, welcome back. And to my right, we also have Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus, welcome back. What's going on?
Well, thank you. It's good to be back. Good to be back.
Yes.
I got nothing.
I got nothing. Well, I got this because we're in the thick of our 90s film series, One Fucking Summer, which we've been covering one film for each year of the 90s. Tonight, for episode 112, we are getting...
And it's been taking us about a decade to get through this series, right? It feels like it.
It has. But tonight is 1997, the film we've picked for that year, which is Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights. So here we go. Very excited to get into that because it is a little unique in that normally on this show, when that name comes up on this show, where usually it's, you know, he's usually kind of in the dunking booth a little bit, right? Isn't that right, T?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's in the lore of One Fucking Hour, his film Magnolia has been used as shorthand for, you know, following up a huge success with this indulgent bomb on a creative level. And so Magnolia, it was an early episode for us, so it's a totemic, really. And then we also have many problems, especially Marcus, with Punch Drunk Love, which has been brought up before, and movies we don't appreciate. And so yeah, there's something that irks us about him. And it continues, and but this is the weird thing.
Yeah,
I'll just speak for myself. I'm a huge fan. I love this film. I've seen it a million times, about as much as any film I've ever seen. I have nothing bad to say, and that's part. Maybe we said this before. Yes. That is part of the hurt people thing, or the hurt people hurt Magnolia, you know, thing.
Right? Because
Magnolia was so disappointing.
Yes, as a follow-up.
Because I enjoyed this so much.
Right. Because here comes this, you know, very fun, very well-tuned film, and then you get this kind of like lopsided, pretentious, I'm taking myself super serious, you know, hyper serious, emotionally abusive film that is Magnolia, that we've talked about a lot on this film, or on this show. And, you know, we've also talked about how it's sort of the flipping of the pancake theory, where, you know, one side of the pancake on this show, we talk about a movie, you know, of a particular filmmaker where, you know, we don't like their film, flip it over, here's a film that we do like. And that's very, you know, evident also of Oliver Stone. You know, there's films of his like Talk Radio we like, and you flip it over.
Yeah, we flipped the... We flipped the Doors pancake, and lo and behold, it was Talk Radio, and we love Talk Radio. It's awesome, and we're going to do that again.
Right?
You know,
you flip might have back, and it's Natural Born Killers, and then you flip it back, and it's Salvador.
Flip that pancake over, and maybe it's Salvador. Exactly. So
I will say this for PTA, even though, you know, we dunk on him sometimes, he's still the best Paul Anderson, right? Like, we like him better than Paul W.S. Anderson, right?
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who is that again? Is he like an art director?
Like Resident Evil director? I think?
No, art director.
I don't fucking know.
He did Event Horizon, the Mortal Kombat films, I believe. You know, he's kind of one of those guys.
Sounds cool to me.
Yeah, I know.
So let's not maybe do that. Okay, apples and oranges-ing these guys.
All right. Well,
anyway, so this is a love fest. We do this once in a while here.
Yeah, we'll get
we'll
kind
strap
of like
in. What we do with.
Yes. What I was going to say is strap in, because tonight we're going deep on Boogie Nights. I think our approach to tonight's show is going to be similar to our Goodfellas episode, where it's like, this is a movie we've all seen, we all know it. Let's try and go deep and talk about our favorite deep cut observations, deep cut set pieces and scenes. Just get right into it. But
elements like this particular shot,
yes,
this establishing shot, this camera movement, let's do it.
Let's go deep. But before we do, quick shout out to the One Fucking Hour Patreon. Patreon.com/onefuckinghour is where you can sign up for just $5 a month and get instant access to our bonus episodes and audio commentary tracks. And shortly, right after this, after we tape tonight's episode, we're going to be getting into recording that bonus episode we've been promising for far too long.
We're going to have the same clothing to prove it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
one of those things.
We will. But the episode that we will be recording tonight finally is on, because this is the 90s film series, we're going to get into the 90s films that we've never seen. The biggest, most, I guess if you want to call it embarrassing, or most obvious films that we should have seen that we all haven't. So
huge cultural landmarks from the 90s, and we have not seen them, and we're going to blindly stammer in the room without electricity to find our way out, and take wild shots at guessing the plot of a film we have not seen, but that everyone and their grandma and the cab driver down the road has seen, but us. So that's coming up.
So this is all the holes in our filmography, our 90s filmography. We're going to get into that for the bonus episode. It's going to be very fun, very embarrassing. I was staring at my list of 5 films here. I don't know what the fuck any of these are about. So, and you guys probably do.
Same. I'm looking at it right now. Can I propose?
If we all have the same movie we haven't seen, then we have to do it. Right?
Then we're stuck in.
That's a mega. Yeah.
Then we're stuck in the room forever.
Can we implement a like a terror alert? Like when we're sort of off, but we're kind of right on the plot, it's a yellow, and then we're getting pretty off is orange, and then red is like, what the fuck, dude? like an alert, like a. Can we do it yellow, orange, red? We'll just shout it out,
Okay, so we're gonna do that,
because you're gonna verify the plot, the synopsis to us after we guess.
Yes,
and then we'll go terror alert it, yellow, orange, red.
Sure. Right. Okay. So that'll be for the bonus episode, which will be, by the time you hear this, it'll be up on the Patreon. Patreon.com/onefuckinghour is the only way you can listen to that. Or if you're on YouTube and you scroll underneath this video, click the join button. You can become a Momen of the channel for the same price and the same benefits. Just if you want your content there or you want it on Patreon, it's up to you. Same perks, but we appreciate the support, and that's the best way to support the show if you like what we're doing. So we appreciate all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Shall we get into tonight's main event? Are you ready? Should we do it?
Let's love fest it up.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to get the clock going here. Here we go, and boom. All right, just a quick little synopsis action. Everybody knows this movie, but let's just do it anyway. All right, so Boogie Nights. In the San Fernando Valley in 1977, teenage busboy Eddie Adams, love that, which of course is portrayed by Mark Wahlberg in a performance that I would say, if it were today, it would be probably a best actor Oscar winner performance, most likely. Gets discovered by porn director Jack Horner, played by Burt Reynolds, amazing as well, who transforms him into an adult film sensation, Dirk Diggler. Brought into a supportive circle of friends, or a sort of a quasi-family, if you will, including fellow actors Amber Waves, Julianne Moore, who makes another appearance in our 90s
MVP.
series. Yeah, exactly. Roller Girl.
Girl.
Totally, yeah. Roller Girl, played by Heather Graham, and Reed Rothschild, John C. Reilly in the house. Dirk fulfills all his ambitions, but a toxic combination of drugs and egotism threatens to take him all the way back down. So here we go, Boogie Nights. Before we get into some of our favorite set pieces and esoteric details, Tom, I'm sure you have some sort of origin story with this film. You've brought it up quite a lot on the show. So what's your memories of the first time you saw it?
Right. We were all pretty excited, me and my dumb friends, and kind of the whole town, it felt like. And we went to opening night. And so it's opening night. It's like the late show. It's like the 10, 11 o'clock show. It's a long movie. So we're all there, packed theater. Like people, there isn't a seat available. And we're all having a great time. It was really wild, really fun. And during the scene, which we'll probably talk about, of the drug deal gone bad, and it's like, that's Cosmo, he's Chinese, and he's like firing the fireworks.
It's Cosmo. He's Chinese.
And then they're playing Jesse's Girl scene, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's it goes to black rhythmically, almost feeling like it's going to black when the fireworks are going off, and when you're the close up of his face when he's hearing Jesse's Girl. I'm like, wow, that's a really bold, strange thing. Like cutting to black. I'm like, that's almost like 60s new wave guitar. Like, wow. It's getting more frequent. Like, oh, now it's just black, and I'm just hearing Jesse's Girl, and I'm like, is this some weird subjective filmmaking thing? He's blacking out. Right. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And like, then there's gun firing, and I'm like, and I can't, it's just black. And I was like, what the fuck? And then the whole thing goes out. And then they said, we're sorry, the projector bulb blew, guys. And we went crazy because it was like the end of the movie. We were so engaged. And they go, everyone's getting a pass. You can show up next week. So we had to go next week and watch it all over again for the last 8 minutes. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's pretty crazy.
That is weird. Well, I like the idea that it was like this art film firecracker cut to black.
That it was a choice.
That was a choice. I love that.
Because it was cutting out on his close-up,
and then it's accidental art, and I that's amazing. I love the hell out of that. I love that.
Try that. Somebody make that edit for me. Cutting to black during his close-up and Jesse's Girl. Anyway,
that's pretty amazing. And that of course, that close-up where it hangs on Mark Wahlberg there during that song playing, great choice. Just as it is, that's one of the great.
That's cinema.
That's one of the great things about this movie.
That's a big moment.
Is so many things are dialed in. So many of the details are so on point, and it's really hitting on all strides. And for me, it's I kind of wanted to start tonight before we get into larger set pieces with just. What is your, not maybe your favorite, but just a particular minute specific detail, a article of clothing maybe, or a prop, or just a gesture, or a little set piece? What are your, just what are some of our favorite ones to kick this off with? I'll start just so you can get the spirit of what I'm talking about. I noticed it on this watch again, and it's so on the money, because I think what's so great about this is you're talking San Fernando Valley, 70s, porn industry, the types of people that would be in that sort of family, and the different things that they would be into. The fact that John C. Reilly becomes a magician, is so on point. Something it's almost truth is stranger than fiction sort of way. But some little this is so amazing to me. So Mark Wahlberg, as soon as he makes a little cash and he's become Dirk Diggler, and he's able to afford his own sort of, house and everything, and he's giving everybody the tour, man. Spot on detail is to have like a really bad amateur painted portrait of himself in his house. And it's so perfectly, poorly articulated. Yeah. With just weird.
Someone has a good painter probably had to do a bad painting.
Yeah, exactly.
Proportions are wrong and everything.
Totally. I love that.
It's brilliant.
This movie does this really well, by the way. Just the idea of having to create really campy bad things with really good actors, or really good things. And I think that's what's so great about this movie is they do that so well. And I think you do see a Bill Macy portrait of him towards the end, right at the end of the film. So that whoever that artist was who's doing the amateur portraits, amazing. Yeah. That's my little favorite.
That's great
detail. Who wants to go next? Marcus, you go next. What do you got?
This is just a really brief reference in the film, but of course, since I'm the resident Star Wars guy,
I knew it. I knew you.
I
knew you were going to say this, and I didn't even write it down because I was like, Marcus has got it. Go ahead.
I got it covered.
He's got it. SW.
Okay, so Don Cheadle's such a sweet character in this movie. He's like the heart of the film. I think you feel for him, and he's just so sweet. He's sweet and funny. He's got this one scene that's like basically it's
his introduction.
A big shout out to what's that? It's his introduction, right? Yeah. But it gets overtaken for me with just the repeated Star Wars reference because he says TK-421 about 800 times in that scene.
I mean, it's one thing to hear it from Buck's mouth. It's another thing to hear it from the TK-421.
Naming the stereo. This is TK-421.
Right.
And that, of course, is in everyone probably realizes that, I guess, but it's in A New Hope. It's the
name of the stormtrooper, right?
It's one of the Death Star like commanders talking to a stormtrooper, going, "TK-421, do you copy?"
Yep.
TK-421, why aren't you at your post? TK-421, do you copy?
Right.
I knew it.
Nice.
I knew you had that. I knew you had all
That's
that on
killer.
lock. Yeah.
Nicely done. It's not the only Star Wars reference. Too,
It's not, which
That's
is great.
true. That's
Which
true.
is great. Go ahead, Tom. What you got?
Well, I mean, I could do this all day. This is kind of what I was primed for this episode. But I'll just start with one that's kind of a tribute to him in establishing like new locations, establishing shots, but in the form of tight close-ups. Which being unkind, some might say that's a Scorsese thing to do.
Sure.
But PTA did it really well. So just as an example, this isn't like a wild, goofy thing, but I thought just an example of a technique that I've really responded to in this film is it's Dirk early on is having sex with his girlfriend at the time. They're in her, like high school kid bedroom.
Yeah.
And the shot is established with the display of her trophies, and like she's into horses. And there's like little figurines of horses and like maybe
Briar horses.
And like a little medal of her doing really great, like horseback riding or whatever. And it's just these tight close-ups that sort of do a really nice job establishing like where we're at here. Who's this person? What kind of world this is? But it's also the kind of thing. So it's an objective understanding through details of a place and time. But it's also subjective to me in the sense of like a person in that room, having sex with your girlfriend after, you might just kind of stare and bug out and look at the stuff on the shelf.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that happens in life when you just are
Sure.
like, okay, horse figurines. Yeah. Like
there's a lot of scenes in this movie that feel so lived in and feel like so authentic, like, almost maybe like, no, I've not been in a drug dealer's house, during that scene with Alfred Molina and the firecrackers. I've not lived that, but yet it feels so lived in and it feels so real, and I think that's what's kind of wild about this movie. And I won't compare it to his other films, but his other films don't really have that as much, where there's so much authenticity in these scenes and feeling so real. So yeah, I mean that's
it's authentic, example. But it's also mixed with kind of a candy gloss, so it's just like it is like a fantastical version of it, but it works. It feels real, and it works it works on so many different levels. I think
it does.
Well, there is kind of a magical nostalgia.
There is
of the 70s, but again, I reiterate, it's like he does it a few times in the film through tight close-ups of inanimate objects. Like there's another little one, we can move on though, is peachy tree folders during the test at the high school class. Those peachy tree folders have like weird illustrations of like a football player, a basketball player, and he definitely hits a nice tight close-up on that one for a minute to again sort of impart to you time and place in a way,
Yeah. Well, also
it's such a great period piece just across the board. No, it's like but like when people try to do this on a lesser budget, it's so apparent because you're always comparing it to something like this or like Mad Men. I think the next one to do it well was like Mad Men. Like people, it felt like it took a while to get back to people having the budget to execute a period piece effectively.
I know.
Well, Marcus, you're bringing something up I'm finding very interesting here. This is a strange thing I never considered. I think that the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost of all this would be starting with Goodfellas, actually. And maybe we said this on the show. I can't remember. I've said this in the world, but okay. And it's like same year-ish, same period of time. Horrible rendering of the details and getting this fact straight on the look and the time for the Doors.
Yeah, we did this.
But then in tandem, it's Goodfellas. I'm done. It's just, and then Goodfellas nails it. And it just shows you there's no excuse. Like, well, it's 1990, And so anyway, I'm just saying that this is maybe the trilogy and it ends with Mad Men. Maybe I agree with you, but this is right there. It's a piece. How can I put it? It's sort of like an underappreciated connection that PTA has with Scorsese that I think he does a really nice job with in carrying the water of caring about the time and place details.
I just want to clarify what I said earlier, just real quick before we drift too far away from it, is just about in terms of authenticity and through the performances, it feels like, because PTA is from the San Fernando Valley, and he was alive at this point. He was probably very young, but still like, all that stuff, feels like it's lived in and it's known and it's experienced. Where when you see something like, what's that terrible? Is it David O. Russell? What's it called? American Hustle. Is that what it is? Is that what I'm looking for?
Oh God,
right.
yeah.
When you're looking like that,
like
it's the
that, but I know
wigs
what you mean.
and it's the wigs and it's doing the set pieces
Right.
bad
It's doing
and
it
everything.
badly.
It's not lived in like like
because
this
he
movie
was
is.
maybe like 4 years old when this film's setting is.
Yeah, but like-
American Hustle.
Right.
You know
I've
what
got
I
a
mean?
key component in this too. I got to
Sure.
shout out Richard Linklater. For Days to Confuse.
I know. I was
'Cause,
just thinking.
like,
There you go.
When that really was what American Graffiti was for bringing back the 50s. We're kind of like coalescing that. Maybe it was already brewing in the 50s. Nostalgia was already brewing in the 70s, but American Graffiti kind of brought it all together, right?
Right.
It kind of coalesced.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Because like Sean Anna played at Woodstock, it was happening already, but then
Yeah, for sure.
So
Grease
American
the
Graffiti kinda
musical was
captures
playing
that.
Broadway.
Right. But so, for Days Confused, like the 70s was kind of happening a bit, like Stone Temple Pilots talking about it or whatever, but then Days Confused, it's like really just captured that moment and helped propel to make the 90s like this like 70s
Absolutely.
revival decade.
Sure.
Absolutely.
To the point where like, just watching the eye candy in Days Confused is enough to like get a laugh or a chuckle because you're just like looking at the cars and the and
bell
the pants
bottoms.
and stuff. It was all very fresh and new to like look back on the 70s.
100%.
When that film came out. It was
Absolutely.
Like, no one had really revisited that with any,
Right.
It's very fresh.
But something I want to give PTA kudos for with this movie is, with other filmmakers making a film like this, there would be a lot of pastiche. The idea of we're taking the 70s tropes or the 80s tropes as the film gets into the 80s, and it's so fun, haha, and all these references to other things.
The
Which he
camp of it
does.
all.
Yeah, which he does with Scorsese, which I think is fine, but he's still able to make these scenes and these three-dimensional characters and emotional set pieces
Yes.
where like you want to almost like break down and cry by the end of this movie. Like it's he's able to still balance both those things really well, where a lot of these lesser period pieces are completely unable to do that, and I think that's pretty hard to balance. And one.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this isn't it is kind of an emotional scene because it does have some darkness to it because it's in the second half of the film, but I think it illustrates what's so unique about this tone that he's figured out with Boogie Nights. And that's Marcus, get ready, You've Got the Power scene.
Oh boy.
Where let's just start here because this to me is masterful. The idea of, and I'll just start it and then Marcus, you give us the 411. But just the idea of having this sort of pseudo parody of a like arena rock recording, like, real low budget AOR, single being recorded.
You got the touch. You got the power.
Right.
Private press kind of like
Sure. Yeah.
like making demos that no one will ever really listen
No
to.
one will ever hear. Yeah.
At RCA Records.
Right, but there is a attention to detail that's almost on a Spinal Tap level of in terms of the sonics and the lyrics
Totally.
and the way it's being shot and portrayed. And in the hands of somebody else who's not balancing that tone correctly, it could so easily feel like what it would today if anyone attempted this, an SNL sort of ironic, tongue-in-cheek
More cowbell.
quality. Yeah, more cowbell sort of idea. But no, instead it's kind of this, it actually gets very dramatic, that set piece as it keeps going on, which is brilliant, which we'll talk about here in a second. But that's a really interesting balance of tone of something that is comedic, but it's also dark, and it feels authentic. So, hats off to that, to achieve that in just this little set piece, which anybody else, it would have just been for a laugh. But Marcus, what's the 411 with You've Got the Power?
Well, I just always get distracted by the song. I love that scene.
Yeah.
It's a great song, but I get distracted by the song itself in a way because, like, anybody who is exactly my age would have frozen in their tracks when that song came on because you'd have been like, that is the song from the 1984 Transformers movie. It's
Right.
like,
You got the touch. You got the power.
It's the main song in that. So it was like, well, okay, so what is that song doing in this movie? You know, so that was always like a big mystery to me. Why is it this 84 Transformers soundtrack song in a 1997 movie that's taking place? This is like in the
Early
83
80s.
or something
Yeah,
like that.
early 80s.
84.
Yeah, right. And I don't, it's by Stan Bush, and it's funny because the guy, like, he's aware of its kind of Transformers appeal and keeps re-recording it, hoping it'll get on the Transformers like remake soundtracks, like the big,
Really?
He keeps like making new versions of it, hoping
That's
like that
funny.
they'll put it on the soundtrack and stuff,
On YouTube.
and like adding rap and like saying it's like the Linkin
doing
Park version,
Like a
and stuff.
trap version or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So that's kind of funny. But okay, so a lot of people may not realize that Boogie Nights is based on a film that PTA made in 1988, which I'm sure we'll get into more. They sort of, it's more of a mockumentary Spinal Tap version of the same story. I love it. It's awesome.
It's a high school film, right? Isn't it a high school film?
Yeah, he was like 17 when he made it, which is crazy. I mean, I think that's partially why this movie's so good, is because it'd been rolling around in his head for 10 years.
so long.
Yeah, true.
But and trying to tell the story from a different angle. But when you watch that, if you watch it all the way through, it's a harder watch than Boogie Nights, but I still think it's good. But that song is in you got the touches in that movie too.
Yeah.
So then you're like, oh.
You got the power.
He made this movie. It's only 2 years out from the Transformers cartoon or whatever.
Well, like a year from the
that's
VHS
why the song
release.
is in the movie. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That's why it's in there.
Yeah, that's really.
He's a high school kid.
That's
But it's funny because
amazing.
he's not like he's playing it for retro then. Do you know what I mean? Like in '88, he's playing it as if it's
Zeitgeist.
yeah, it's not nostalgic. It's kind of a mind
Right.
fuck.
Can we maybe get into you said it so well, like for this particular scene here, the spinal tappiness of it all. And that's a great call because it is subtly humorous. I'll put it that way. Like you were talking about like the straddling the tones, but the humor of it is very subtle. And what I've always responded to a lot is Riley when he's over the shoulder of the producer. I think it's Michael Penn, right?
I
Michael
think so,
Penn,
yeah.
Sean Penn's brother, right?
Yeah.
Sherman's brother.
You think the bass is taken away from the vocal?
No, not really. I mean, maybe. It sounds balanced to me.
And he's like hovering over the shoulder. It's a classic look. It's like the guy at the board, and then there's the other guy in the band who's like give him more bass. And it's like, is that enough reverb? And and he's like maybe it's got too much bass. And then Michael Penn's like, maybe not really. Like there's something very that little moment. Well, and that's where Riley really thrives. And you can tell that he's super. It's an improv scene. There's probably like 5 different. Options of that.
Options, yeah.
You can just feel that.
I love too, just if we're going deep on that real quick, another little authentic little nugget of that scene is the idea of when they're jamming on the other song.
He will rock you.
And
Feel the heat.
And feel the heat, and John C. Reilly is kind of doing this very pathetic, like almost autopilot, uninspired blues riffing. Which would be so not appropriate for an AOR type of track.
No,
but they're still.
But it's all he's got.
It's all he's got. Yeah.
Feel. No, and like also again, subtly humorous. Like people working on a terrible song. Like you repeat it. So feel, and then another one. Feel the heat.
I think we should repeat that again. Feel. Feel my heat.
Feel my heat.
Yeah,
feel the heat, and then feel my heat. Like he's getting a view of like the construction of a terrible song that's going to be forgotten forever.
It's just
so.
It's just
beautiful.
parody being used, to underscore like the decline and the darkness to come. It's just a really great usage of an idea like that. Yeah. And hey, it's so great where it's situated too, because that scene then evolves into just this incredible performance from Wahlberg and John C. Reilly when they're fighting to get the master tapes from Robert Downey Sr.
Robert Downey Sr. That's a YP, not an MP. And he's like, "What is this YP MP?" More improv, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not an MP. That's a YP. Your problem.
you know. And by the way, speaking of subtle, dry humor, I'm sure they were all improving, and that's, you know, like Downey Sr. could lock right into that kind of mode, you know what I mean? And I'm sure he did just bring to the set like YPNP.
I know,
you know,
YP.
I love that, you know?
It's amazing, and you see Wahlberg doing that sort of what he would later on in that Sister Christian scene. He has that disassociated, coked out, you know, look.
Yeah.
And he does that really well. And then John
so
C.
good.
Reilly's performance, like begging for the tapes, is so funny and also so dark at the same time.
Well, and the logic of it too, like you get the tapes, we make $1 million, and we give you, you know, it's like, the obvious, conclusion of this will be we get $1 million.
So good, so good. So go ahead.
You mentioned the straddling the tones, you know, which is, I think, obviously one of this movie's big strengths. You know, it's funny, it's sad, it's thrilling at times. PTA has a nice little moment kind of talking about that. I forget where I heard it, but he's talking about like how you're not supposed to do that like in a film usually. Right. It's supposed to be a comedy or it's supposed to be a tragedy, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And that he's like, well, I don't know. I just think about when someone's telling a story, it's like a really funny story, and then all of a sudden it's like there's a twist and like their mom died, you know, and it's like then it gets really sad, and then you know, something else happens and it's funny again. He's like, that's how people tell stories, is it has all these kinds of
life
turns
works.
and tonal shifts.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know, I thought that was a nice observation to kind of justify like why it's like that.
Well, here's something that happened to me. We're talking about the 90s and this film, but all the others of the 90s, some of them we're going to be covering, have covered, is I remember at the time remarking to myself right around this time and going, you know what? The movies that I'm seeing full audiences having belly laughs where you can't even hear the dialogue aren't comedies.
Yeah, right.
They're like American Beauty or Boogie Nights. Like they're shredding as comedies, like huge belly laughs, like a sea of laughter to packed theater. And I was thinking that is kind of odd. And does that still happen? Is that
not
still
really?
Right.
No. And it's
or if you walked into this otherwise a film known as a drama, and it's like a sea of laughter.
I know. I love that. Yeah. Or it's like
when Marvin got his head blown off in Pulp Fiction, the crowd was going fucking nuts.
That's true.
Yes. Of that film, Pulp.
That's true. And it's kind of like how, you know, we say I say sometimes, you know, David Lynch movies can be scarier than a horror film. You know, it's kind of the other side of the pancake.
Pancake in it. Yeah.
One other set piece just to throw out to you guys, because on this rewatch it really stuck out to me as being very well executed. Is Dirk Diggler's first scene, his first sex scene, if you will, his first day on set. Is so well done. Again, because you're seeing that sort of, you know, there's great performances in this movie, you know, especially by him and of course by Julianne Moore, and you're seeing good actors intentionally act bad.
And it got really hard being surrounded by all those guys all day.
How long has it been since you've had a woman?
A long time.
As if they're in bad porno acting, which is great. Yeah. But I love the choice of how everybody in that inner circle, if you will, in the production is introduced to the size of his wang, you know, in that moment where it's just all of like the slow push-ins on their face and their reactions to it. Cause it kind of is a great introduction to all those individual characters' sort of relationship to him, you know, throughout.
And they're
the
reacting in their own way. Like,
yes,
of course, the huffing and puffing gay guy, you know, and the boom mic. The late great, what's his name? Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Who's really kind of steals the show in this film. That was a revelation.
He's great.
But yeah, that's great. But no, that's a good point. Everyone's reaction, but the one who keeps it cool, which is his character, is the Burt Reynolds character. You know, like we're going to change reels, and he's like, "Do it quickly."
Yeah, right.
You know, like during the sex scene.
Yeah,
you know, and he's keeping it cool.
Yeah, and I also love how PTA hangs on these like, you know, shots of like the like aperture, you know, iris, you know, expanding and contracting, or the film.
It goes into the camera, right? Into the frame of the shoot of
to imply the, you know, the sexual things that are happening, and and of course, shout out to that scene too. Seymour Cassel in that scene has the best deadpan I'm watching two people fucking face I've ever seen in my entire life. Incredible. Yeah,
it's great. So. Well, and also just what we've been saying a few times now here is this might be the first great example and one of the best examples of smart doing stupid
Yes.
Like if this isn't the first, I don't know what is quite. Maybe there's a few. But so throughout the film are real like dialed in renderings, because we're talking about details, like period piece details, but this is a different kind of detail. This is like, let's get bad really dialed in and right. This song is really bad, and it's gonna have to sound like this snare has got to sound like this, or like that line reading's got to be like that, or and that's just another good. I have another example if we want to move to another little chunk. Just to maybe piggyback on what you're saying, is I got really thrilled when I first watched the film, and you get a lot of that 16 millimeter film bio of him.
I mean, if there's a certain amount of, violence or action in this series of films, that's the movie.
That Julianne Moore makes.
Julianne Moore makes the film, and it's like it cuts to 16, and it was very dramatic because when we were watching it, it becomes 4:3.
Yeah.
On the big screen, it was very extreme. But for me also, I was so steeped in that whole thing, and he got the right library music.
He is a man of passion and mystery. He is a man of lust.
Like that's just the kind of library. This is what I mean. Like this is what we're talking about here. Like the minutia almost of representing like low budget crudeness, and he gets and then of course the way, and it's sort of not great 16 millimeter filmmaking,
bad lighting.
So bad lighting. Thank you. That's a perfect example. Bad weird edits, dodgy edits, and like stabs at creative flourishes, and also bad VO. Like, and that's why today someone like Dirk Diggler is blah blah blah.
For Dirk Diggler, the future is something to look forward to, not to fear. He is a creative man of many interests.
Like lofty dialogue rendered, really poorly.
Right. Those old films are filled with that, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. That's like so he just nails those details.
I know. I really appreciate that he did the research to like watch and make notes and try to get it right, rather than just try to do it from memory, which I think some people do, where they're like, well, just shoot it in 16. That's good. People do good enough a lot when they,
exactly.
But I love that he went back and paid attention to all those details. And he obviously watched that. There's that John Holmes doc from that time, like Exhausted, and I remember there was something on. He was talking about getting the split screen from the trailer of John Holmes movies and stuff. He was steeping himself in it to try to, as he was writing it.
And I do appreciate, I do appreciate the idea of when you're doing a period piece, or if you're making a film like this and you're going hardcore research, because John Holmes is obviously the archetype for Dirk Diggler, right? And, the guy who did Deep Throat is the archetype for, what's his name's character? Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds' character.
Yeah, and so, I just really appreciate, having, taking the archetypes from their real life, sources, and doing your own spin on it, and adding your own sort of, flourishes to it in terms of, fleshing it out for yourself, but it's rooted in, things that maybe you can't just write yourself. They have to be based on some form of authenticity. And I think he does a good job of, balancing that in this. So
it's well researched.
Very
in
much
many
so.
ways.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. You guys have any other set pieces you want to spend some time on?
I do. There's so many. Gosh, when you first brought it up, the dark half of the film, isn't maybe always thought of as much, or I don't know actually, but the dark second half, I could almost love to do a whole hour with you guys on that. But one thing that always was very chilling to me and had authenticity was the donut store scene.
Yeah.
And it's so dark, but just to maybe take a step back from that, it is beautiful to see the one big love affair of the film done with what's his name?
Cheadle.
Oh my God,
Cheadle. Don Cheadle.
Buck Swope.
Yeah, Buck Swope.
Another there's Downey shout out. There's a lot of Easter eggs. But anyway, so his character, I love how they kind of just to maybe take a step back and how they bond, because it's funny. These two people have known each other. The actress, I cannot remember her name. She's also in Magnolia.
Yeah.
But then also
great.
Cheadle, and they're both at the 1980 party, the ill-fated 80 party. and he's dressed like
Rick
another
James.
great detail. He's dressed like that was maybe briefly the fashion that kind of like Stevie Wonder Mega Blast.
Well, isn't it Rick
kind of
James?
1980.
Isn't it like a Rick
What?
James? It's like a Rick James vibe.
That's
right?
true. Okay, yeah, but
Yeah.
it was sort of everybody for a minute in Black Entertainment was kind of doing that, you know.
Love
and
that.
and he nailed it. And like it's a weird costume, and that's his character. I thought that was a cute. Did a cute thing to have shorthand for a small character, but you really still did get the Cheadle character. He's finding his identity. He's into country music for a minute. Anyway, so they meet, and it's really kind of the cute, true love story of the film, and it feels really nice.
I love it.
And so she's pregnant. Late night. If you want to talk about Van Nuys, if you want to talk about the San Fernando Valley, an all-night donut shop is essential. You have to do that, you know, as a setting. And he does it, and but it has a malevolent feel to it, and and you know, we're talking about how, like, you know, this is a hilarious comedy, but it's not a comedy. But also, then it becomes like a really badass kind of a Tarantino thing, not to reduce what PTA did, but like it's getting as good as something like a Pulp Fiction moment, I think, in the donut scene, and how there's this feeling of tension, and they're like, he's picking out the dozen, you know, flavors, and then the guy comes in and is like, shut the fuck up. And I remember, as details go here, that the way that the mugger looked in the donut shop is something you hadn't seen in the 90s, because he's like a late 80s dirtbag, and they got his costume right and his look and the way he would go right, which I was really impressed by that, because that's something that only happened like a few years before the movie came out, but a lot of dirtbag people would look just like that, like worn down 80s, like Loverboy, the
Like,
band look, but like thrift store version. He like a real like street like scumbag, how they would look, and he's like, shut the fuck up. So anyway, I just want to give a shout out to that scene, because you know it's terrifying. It's an explosion of violence, but then also, just to maybe take another step back from it, is it's this great thing, because he's interspersing about 3 different horrifying moments of darkness. It's like the peak darkness part of the film. And this is the last thing I'm going to say, getting back to details, is underneath it all, to have the consistency, and you're going between Roller Girl and the limo, and Dirk is being a street hustler and like jerking off in front of the guy in the van, and then it's the donut shop. But underneath it all is this weird kind of just sonic tone. That obviously sounds like a kind of a crude loop. Don't.
Right.
Don't.
I think that's Michael Penn, right? He did the score.
Okay, that's
film.
what
Not sure.
Yeah, no, he did the score for the movie. So the guy who's the engineer or whatever.
Wow.
also, he did the music. So
that's cool.
I think he said he was going for like a broken circus theme for the film.
Right. Well, you hear that in the very beginning. Like
That's right.
the preamble before
that's
the
right.
disco
Yeah.
music. There's
Yeah,
like
that's
this
cool too.
But anyway, I was just wanting to illustrate, actually, distinct from what he was referring to. I think that circus, that broken circus music. There's something like, it's like straight up avant-garde.
It's a
and
loop.
it goes on.
It's a loop.
It's a loop, but and it's sonically, it's like uncomfortably sounding like a loop, like like it's industrial music almost.
It is,
and it's that genius thing. I always appreciate this, to unify disparate things in a montage.
Yeah,
just have that music bed, and it's just so cool, and it's done so well. So
yeah, I really love that scene too, and well, it's natural for me to love the Roller Girl video scene. You know, anyone who saw our bonus episode where we talk about like what was our show and tell, and and I'm showing off the my video camera, my antique video camera collection. I just love the tube camera with those flares,
huge light source needed.
It's so good.
No, but this is a multi-format film.
Yeah.
Like we talked, there's a pastiche of 16, and like you're saying, an old bleedy light camcorder. Amazing.
It's so good. And I love just thematically too. I mean, it's so crushing. It's such a gut punch, just the scene in general. And there's the character from her high school comes back. It's horrible. Even
the worst.
He's horrible. Yeah, I didn't even realize that that it was him. I would think I must not have been paying attention that well the first time I saw this movie because I didn't realize that that's a character we'd seen before.
Yeah.
Makes it even more horrible. But the video camera aspect of it, and this has been commented on people before, that the story, the sort of subplot, how video destroys the porn industry, which I think is so interesting and super relevant for today. Just in our lifetime, we've seen it so many times that like a new technology comes out and completely rearranges society and shakes things up culturally and economically. And then you've got this, you sort of look back on what we've lost culturally as a result of this new technology coming out.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a major theme.
Porn's going to be all AI soon.
Exactly, exactly.
This is what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that. It's like looking back on, just
totally.
how technology might make things easier, but it doesn't make things better, and all the people that suffer because of it,
Well, and there was the requirement of having to have some work and attention to detail when you have less than perfect seamless tools to just goose right through it. Can I actually then I like this piggybacking thing. If I can briefly bring up a chunk, then maybe Evan, you want to grab it?
Can I just put it's a related chunk to this chunk we've been on, and then maybe you take it in a different direction. Because that back half of the movie is so rich with so many different choices. It's almost the best, right? So, but you were talking about when things get really grim. When you're talking about the roller girl thing intercut with, Dirk in the truck with the guy and everything. But there's another montage that occurs before that, when things are kind of at like a mid-level grim, which I actually really dig, and I sort of really caught my eye on this rewatch again, which it is kind of where that whole scene with the YP and trying to get the tapes, that sits in this montage. But it's this kind of cocaine montage that I'm talking about, where it's where it's this amazing, great, rich character dialogue between Roller Girl and Amber when they're talking about pottery and her getting her GED, doing coke. That's
coked space babble,
like
moment.
The best thing
like
ever.
And getting like jacked up fake emotions, like you're like my mommy and I'm like your daughter. Yeah,
that's real.
I want you to be my mom, Amber. Are you my mom? I'll ask you if you're my mom, okay? And you say yes.
That's some real ass shit.
That happens.
That's happened. That's happened.
No, totally.
So there's
also go ahead.
But so there's that, and that's intermixed with Buck trying to get the bank loan, which ties into that love story, which is heartbreaking. He can't escape being a adult film star. That's going to haunt him forever and all of his future opportunities. And just all that whole little set piece there of you're like, they still have some. I can't remember what music is playing there, but it's not gotten
a great song.
Full espresso.
It's a soul song with this based on like it's like something or what something. That's sort of the name of the title. No, but what I love is you're talking about like some of the emotional zings that are happening in this great montage, like roller, like merry-go-round of depression, and like you said, it's the first wave of the bleakness. The 80s have begun.
Yeah.
But what I love is there's just a couple little stylistic flourishes that I found giddy. I got giddy when I saw them. It's the quick cutting of like the cycle of what their lives have become, where it's like door slams open. He's got the Coke in his hand. He's like, Todd, do you have the Coke? And it's like, I've got it. And it's like, snort, stare with sweat in your face, at the pool. And like, there's this one really great moment cut to the music that's very, I got to say, and as a compliment, it's kind of like a Beck video where he goes by with the Coke,
I know, and it goes,
packing in his hand, and then it freeze frame.
Back. What the fuck took you so long, Todd?
Blurry.
Zoom in, and the zoom in gets grainy because it's the film is like ×8 or something like that, and I was like, that was exciting. I was like, whoa, movies can be like dynamic and fun again and have surprising sort of creative flourishes like that.
Love that.
But it fit the film. It wasn't gratuitous, and because it was illustrating like what they're doing is they're focusing. It's like the only thing in the world that matters is like nothing. The little thing of Coke, zoom, and like their attention, and it's just so beautifully rendered is all I'm saying.
It really is.
Through that flourish.
It's a great touch. Yeah, it's almost like something out of Superfly or something. Like it has, it's a really cool little detail, and it's cool the actual progression of them. Just like, okay, well, we're bored, not doing anything. Oh, the Coke's here. To all the way to like, when is the Coke getting here?
Todd.
Todd.
Yeah.
Todd is.
Well, they become like animals because they like if a dog hears the jangle of the doorknob, they get excited, and they're kind of like, oh my God, the doorknob. That means that's Todd. That means that's Coke, or whatever, whoever's getting the Coke.
And it's like
Killer.
great character choices as well too throughout this whole thing. Jack Horner, the idea that he's trying to make a porno film that's going to change the world, so to speak. The idea of like, after people jack off, they walk out of the theater. I'm going to make a movie where people, jack off, but they stay for how it.
They stick around.
Yeah, they stick around after.
That was a battleground for a period of time, and I think that. Frankly, a lot of people by like 1975, the filmmakers and culture at large didn't really quite understand where this was going. Because they thought maybe you could have respectable X-rated films because there was like In the Realm of the Senses was a Japanese art film, and it was X-rated. And of course, Last Tango in Paris. These films aren't super graphic, but Realm of the Senses was actually pretty graphic. But right. And so like people thought like maybe this is the inevitable thing where it's legitimized, and maybe in 1987 there's going to be an Oscar-winning full penetration porno film.
Right. You're right, because Euro movies always had like a high sexual component to it. Even if they had like,
I'm just saying the legitimization, like there was evidence on the beach.
Oh no, I totally feel you that respect, because foreign films are respected, but the artful nudity and stuff, and you could imagine, you could see where these people that were making the porns could imagine themselves doing that.
Like because culture, I think, wasn't sure like where this is going. But actually, if you don't mind, this is leading me to a chunk that I just wanted to get to. That's sort of like an underdog, maybe underrepresented part of the this film's history. There's a great representation, though, of we were just talking about this, like in 1975 or so. Like, is this going to get more and more legitimate? Like, is that the progress, exponentially speaking? But then you see in the face of these new characters at the 1980. New Year's party, you see that, oh, no, not even close, because, back to what we're saying, video's cheap, video's going to rule the roost, because the Colonel, comes in with that great monologue where he's like, look, Jack, you're holding on too much. It doesn't have to look good. Remember?
Yes.
That little sort of sit down at the desk.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is,
Philip Baker Hall comes in, too, at that point. But
right. No, what I'm saying is, like, he brings in these three scraggly, rough teenagers who, and the casting, here's a shout out to the casting. It's very minor characters, like 3 or 4 dirtbag 18-year-olds who don't look glamorous.
These are the next stars. These are the real people in the world.
Right.
Like Dirk or Julianne Moore. They don't look like they, she didn't spend a lot of time on her hair. They're just like dirty runaways, basically.
Yep.
Like, so it's like they're going like, we're just going to have 18-year-old runaways fucking in a motel room on camcorders. And just that moment is beautifully represented by the brilliant casting of those people, like, like looking like dented and like dinged up and like, so shout out to that moment.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. Yeah, unreal. And other just like good character stuff too. It's like, arming, we were talking about Don Cheadle and his character with this identity crisis and the idea how when you meet him, he's at the stereo place and he's pitching this guy and, he plays the country western music.
The bass, right? You hear it, it kicks.
And then his boss comes up and is like, what kind of brother are you?
What kind of brother are you anyway, huh? Listen to that shit.
All right. Look, Jerry.
No. You look.
Listening to this, and it's like, oh man,
just feel it in your body, and it's like banjo music.
I know. And it's a great character setup, for that.
Beautiful.
And I also love his naivete when John C. Reilly shows him like a card trick, and then Don Cheadle's like, but aren't you worried about all the dark forces?
That is incredible, but doesn't it make you nervous when you're dealing with all those evil forces?
That you're having to deal with, and doing magic tricks, and it's like...
He's like, no, it's an illusion. He's like, yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah, exactly. The music's too loud.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's a great little touch.
There's so many great performances throughout.
Oh my God. Yeah.
John C. Reilly was really...
He's still... No, but can we actually go back, if we're talking about rendering characters is Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah,
and
I'm a fucking idiot. I'm a fucking idiot.
I'm a fucking idiot.
Top tier quotable.
That's one of the great moments of all time.
Yeah,
of this film and of all time.
I'm a fucking idiot. I'm a fucking idiot.
I remember seeing that first night that I saw it. It was a packed crowd, and it was like it was washing because he like the thing that I like about PTA sometimes is he let the beat go on. He let it go on like several more beats than what you'd expect.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like him beating himself up, saying like I'm a fucking idiot, and it goes on like one more time more.
Yeah.
Like from audience expectations, and it lingers like maybe twice as long as.
Yeah.
And I just remember I started looking at because I was up in the balcony. I was looking at the audience, watching something that was so powerful, and I thought PTA really did something brilliant here, where this entire huge packed audience of hundreds of people are staring at a guy who's just bawling uncontrollably with self-hatred. And the performance is incredible. It looks great. He's got his ridiculous outfit, his like wannabe, like Dirk Diggler look, and his like very badly painted car. And it's I guess what I'm trying to say is like it's the greatest visual shorthand of like depressing self-hatred.
Yeah.
And he does it like 3 or 4 beats longer than expected. And I thought that was very powerful. And he took a chance with that.
It's so great, and that's his like biggest moment too in the film. As a character, and he does so much just with so little in other places. Just
he does.
As you pointed out earlier with his voice, or like a huffing and puffing,
his quivering,
like he
doesn't fit. He's ill-fitting on the suit they're all starting to wear.
It's
which
amazing.
is like almost like classic comedy. Like I can't fit the top button. Of the polyester disco suit,
like Hardy kind of thing.
But
exactly.
Just evidence of his work having very little and delivering a lot is that scene when he's walking with Dirk to set for the first time, and he's talking and you can just see in his nonverbal communication he's chewing on the pen. Great touch. And he's just like all the nonverbal communication, he's able to sell his infatuation with Dirk so well, and he's like I love your name, and just
I like your name a lot.
You do?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah,
all that stuff, and it's so.
It was his second best performance of that period after Patch Adams. I'll say. Sorry.
No.
I have to do it. Contractual obligation.
No, he's great.
But really, in a way, more than everybody, even Riley or anybody. That was a star-making turn. It's always exhilarating when you don't know this person, and then suddenly it's like we're going to be seeing this guy a lot because that was he fucking stole the show.
And he pops up in like these weird places in the back half, like he's part of the drug deal gone wrong planning.
That's right.
And then he's sort of there at the end as well too. Like he hangs on to the bitter end, which is kind of cool about his character. I feel like.
In that planning moment, I love there's like the battle of the two fools moment where like John C. Reilly gets annoyed with Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's like,
Scotty.
What?
What do you mean what? Do me a favor, just mind your business, please. What the fuck?
Sorry. Anyway.
Like right. One moment that he's cooler than him.
Right. Like I'm the guy who's got this drug deal sorted out. Like thanks for your input. Like, wow. Oh, it was Thomas Jane is another great small character that like he does a great job. Thomas Jane, is that the guy's name? Who's the sorry? He is am I getting the name right? He's the guy who is the liaison to have the deal happen at
Todd?
The firecracker place.
Todd?
Yeah, Todd, right,
Todd,
exactly.
Yeah.
Todd. Todd's incredible. What I love is the little moment. Here's a nice little moment. Is Todd is looking in the rearview mirror right before they go but the side mirror right before they go into the drug dealer's house, and he's like trying to sort himself out, like trying to like feel less dirtbaggy and like get rid of the sweat under his eyes and stuff. And he shreds too. He really pops when the film has him in it.
Totally.
And for doing minor characters, I really appreciate Ricky Jay's performance in this too.
Always.
I think he's like super believable as that guy.
Dude, you're so right.
And just so cool to see him. Just a magician, like probably like the best magician in the world.
Yeah. Like in real life.
also be a killer actor too.
Oh, he's so good. He's good in almost anything
that's a
he's
good
in.
call.
Like he's great in the House of Games, and he's great in so much stuff. And another one of those Chicago guys we gotta shout out here on, if I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about is Bill Macy. I call him Bill Macy.
Oh, okay.
But he's Bill.
Billy.
I think it should be a
Billy.
rule.
Billy. Okay,
Yeah,
I think it should be a rule on this show that we have to use only the names of if we knew him. So Bill Macy is
like Bobby De Niro.
Marty.
Yeah, Bobby De Niro, Marty. No, but Bill Macy, man, in this movie, the look.
Dude, I know.
The look. The little tiny mullet is, it's so
his visage.
His visage.
Yeah, but how the grotesque. I mean, they go for it. There's the grotesque fake smile right before he blows his brains out. And it cuts to the card that says 80s,
Yeah, great.
Like, no, but God, I forgot about him. This film is chock full of incredible performers.
Full.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that too, it's also grimly.
There's others.
It's grimly, amusing. The idea that his character, his arc of that, every one of these minor characters is given a full arc, which I love. You have Julianne Moore has the battle with her child, getting the custody of her child. Everyone's got an arc, and of course, Bill Macy has the arc where he's being
the cuckold.
He's being emasculated by everyone, large groups of people watching somebody have sex with his wife.
Close the door. Watching his wife getting fucked. Yeah,
yeah.
She has the most kind of realistic 70s porn type look.
For sure.
Well, she was a porn star.
She was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was.
There you go.
His wife.
That's right.
Whatever.
That's
I forgot her name, but she was actually one.
That's right.
But there's another person we're not bringing up too, who I think died soon after the film was made. He plays the Colonel. Cannot remember his name.
Oh no, he played not the Colonel. Oh yeah, the Colonel. The Colonel. Right.
He's the Colonel.
Right.
He's the Colonel. Yeah, that's the thing. No, but here's a great set piece. I want to open it up to you guys. We haven't at all talked about the party, but inside the big opening party with the Three Dog Night song and all that shit.
Yeah.
At the pool is that great, the first raindrop of darkness in the film is that girl having a seizure in the bedroom after the bad coke.
Oh yeah,
right,
dude.
Yeah.
How about and then the guy's like, "This is the third time in 3 days. Someone,
I know.
pee on me."
This is twice in 2 days and the chick is OD'd on me.
Well, do you think this means that maybe you ought to think about getting some new shit? What do you think?
And the guy's like, "Maybe you should get some better coke.
There's some better shit."
Right.
Yeah,
dude.
Right.
Yeah, shout out to Robert Ridgely is his name, who plays the Colonel. But also, the Colonel gets an incredible dramatic moment too when Burt Reynolds is visiting him in jail, and they have this exchange behind the glass, and he's like, Jack, you're my friend, right? My friend. And then the audio cuts out, and you're just seeing, him mouth those words, and you understand that he's into underage boys and girls, it sounds like, and it's like Jesus Christ, and that's also feels very real and something that would would happen at that time.
Absolutely.
To someone in that circle, and it's so
I guess we're doing the round robin of all these incredible performers and performances, but is there any other and maybe are there any pre-80s chunks that we wanted to get into, because
I know
we got naturally very into the post-80s cutoff, the first
it's so good timing, I guess. It's
it's pretty good timing,
fun. It's very music driven.
Yeah.
I think it's it feels most the balance of the happy beginning half and then the sad end and then the cinematography, I think, is what give it that kind of Goodfellas thing. Obviously it's one of his favorite movies, and it feels, the whole thing feels very Goodfellas all the way through, but but in a way, it does transcend it, because there are other Goodfella copy movies.
Sure.
Blow is another one that's just blatant Goodfella
that
copy,
sucks.
and it sucks, right? So, I don't think you could never. This is such a good movie, unequivocally.
Yeah,
but,
he's utilizing the Altman Scorsese influences, I think, very tastefully and doing it very well here. And he
still makes it his own too.
He does, and
there's things that Scorsese wouldn't really be covering, as far as the human interest angle,
right.
For sure.
And he's firing on all cylinders with great directing, great performances, this flawless cinematography, everything's
editing is
so
great.
well, the editing,
totally.
delivering.
One of the pre-'80s scenes that jumps to mind too, that I think cements why I think, Mark Wahlberg is the standout of this movie. Like his performance in this movie is on another level, I think, because I had read that, it was designed for Leonardo DiCaprio. That's who he wanted to play that part.
Yeah.
But of course, he took the Titanic gig instead. But Marky Mark is so good here, and I think like his one of his big sort of Oscar moments in this movie is when he's having that big fight with his mom, in that part where and his unique brand of like cry yelling to his mom, that when he's kind of even fuddling on the words and he's sounding so naive and dumb.
You don't know I'm good. I have good things that you don't know about. And I'm going to be something I am. Don't you fucking tell me that.
When he's saying, I'm not stupid, I'm going to do big things, And it's like to deliver that with such sincerity, this kind of doofus dialogue, and he's able to do it so emotionally convincing. And then, of course, full circle, when the movie comes back around again and he wants Jack to take him back, man, he's so good. He's just so authentic to that character, and I think he grounds the movie in a big way.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that is, there's all these other elements in the performances and characters, but it's Dirk Diggler in the center, and you're right, he does a job that no one expected. I mean, you do have to remember that it almost seemed like a joke, like it was like a punchline to be like, oh, and the Calvin Klein Funky Bunch model is going to be the lead in the movie, and it's like
I know.
It seemed like it wasn't completely absurd, but it was not. He was not respected. He was not respected, and then
like
he was.
And like I was saying, if this movie came out today exactly like it was, I mean, this would be the most talked about movie of that year. I mean, it would be, all the awards, everybody would be getting their awards, for this movie. But it's kind of weird that it did get some accolades, and of course, in amongst the film community, it was very talked about, but it didn't make a huge, giant cultural splash at the time. Home video,
there was still a puritanical element to
absolutely
old Hollywood, even in the 90s.
Absolutely,
it was still just a bit too much of a taboo topic to.
It was
like, and this she got an Oscar for this incredible scene where she's discussing dicks and blowjobs.
I know, yeah.
Like, there's so much more to the film and the performance. It's
or when she's like, just make sure to aim it on my tits, or whatever. Just put it on my my tits.
I know.
Burt Reynolds was nominated for an Academy Award for it, though.
They were. There were some.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Which, and it's amazing. He kind of had some. I know there was a lot of on-set friction between, him and PTA over this, and I think he somewhat reconciled, knowing that at some point this movie was good. But he
thought this was like going to be a big embarrassing stain on his career, and he was like, I immediately regret doing this when he was shooting,
But he's so good.
He thought it's like a porno, but movie about porno. Like, what am I doing, Burt Reynolds?
I know he was.
This guy was in Cop and a Half like the year before.
I know, and I guess I guess that there was some conversation he had where he turned down the film like 7 or 8 times, and PTA convinced him, and then I think he tried to convince his agent, like, no, you got to tell him to do it. And Burt called him, and Burt was like, don't you understand? I have fans, and if they see me do this, they're gonna turn their backs on me. And then PTA was like, if you can harness that exact energy that you're having on this phone call right now, you're gonna get an Oscar for this movie.
And then he did.
And then he got nominated. But yeah,
nominated. Right? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I have to say it was very funny. Just a quick Raimi shout out to Raimi. She had walked in right as the grimmest parts of this movie were playing, and she's seen this movie many times and loves this movie, and we're watching that sort of with that loop, the sound loop we were talking about, and him jerking off in the truck with the guy, and she's
donkey dick montage,
right? She almost like I can't do this part. It's so dark. I'm like, well, what's
wow, okay,
like really, like what?
She's
like, I know, and I know, right?
Like what?
And then she's like,
that's saying something.
She's just like, penis is not getting hard. Like there's just nothing grimmer than
actually
penis
the thing
is
that
not
gets me is I think the darkest thing, weirdly, it actually shout out to Heather Graham, is Roller Girl's true feelings coming out in this super violent way.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rage, it's so ugly, and it's also pent up and all repressed by like happy talk and drugs and stuff. And that was really kind of shocking, I think, because I mean, this is Roller Girl, because otherwise in the film, she's like bopping and hopping around. It's a very light little bunny rabbit character, but then it gets really grim. And I think it's not over calibrated. I think he does a nice job, and he sets it up so that it's particularly shocking when that rage she's not raging at that moment. She's raging at everything leading up to that moment.
Totally. You guys might not like that I'm bringing this up, but it's like watching it again, that grim montage as it's unfolding, one really dark thing parlaying into the next really dark thing. You know, it had me thinking about Requiem for a Dream. Only in that, like, you know, this is handled gracefully in this movie. Good
point.
That like Requiem is sort of the like a unintentional SNL parody version of like the ending of Boogie Nights.
The Marilyn Manson version of
but just of how ridiculous it is. You know, this guy losing.
No, that's a great point.
Shivering
to back to split screen those two scenes, because they are like montages of grim downfall. You know, and it's a little carousel that rotates to different characters. And you're right that one of them is just obnoxious and tone deaf and all thumbs.
Yeah,
and then there's so much grace in Boogie Nights. Actually, we have like a minute here. Yeah. How about the big scene, the fireworks, Cosmo, he's Chinese? Like, come on.
I know, it's great. It's
how about
awesome.
that? Like that's great. That's a brava scene, and and also that like he does that thing. It's very 90s, but I think this is a positive thing. It's kind of in the Pulp Fiction era where it's a pop song and it's happy-go-lucky, Jesse's girl, but there's like people getting shot and like violence and like, or Sister Christian, And I think that he gets away with it because I don't know. It just feels like the mediocrity. The mediocre 80s. That would be the soundtrack of the mediocre 80s. Yeah. That kind of shit music.
It's also post Tarantino too, that like Stuck in the Middle with You, get the ear cut off.
Well, here's what I'm going to say about that scene and this movie. I think Tarantino is super jelly of this movie. That's my personal opinion, because I think that where Pulp Fiction especially is just all like, to me, kind of embarrassing pastiche, and there's no soul to it. And this movie is heart and soul and emotion and three-dimensional characters. And PT's doing QT better than QT, and that's the biggest compliment. That's the biggest compliment I can give it, because I think it's really got all the great pastiche of the 70s and 80s, but then it's got the heart. And kudos to you, man, for doing that, PTA.
Yeah. So cheer, hats off to PT Anderson, guys. What's
happened to us,
Paul?
What's happened to us?
Like, this is it, buddy. We'll be back. We'll be Punch Drunk Love. I'm kidding.
Look out! No, we've done. Well, we talked about Punch Drunk, but there's others.
I'm kidding. We're not. I don't want to do a Punch Drunk Love episode. No way. We're done. No. But PTA, hats off. Okay.
Never say never. Okay, everybody. That was one fucking hour on Boogie Nights, long overdue. There's a lot left on the table there, but because it's such a monster film, but we love it here. We have no. I have no complaints at all on that film whatsoever, which is shocking.
I wouldn't change a thing.
Which is shocking to just, for his next work, But again, I know I'm cheating. It's like that is that thing that you said, Marcus, where it's like, when someone makes a brilliant movie like this, it's something that's obviously been in their minds for so long, and they know it from every angle. And then you have to kind of rush to do your next project, and you don't get that same amount of.
That's true.
But whatever. Right. I mean, you make this one movie.
Yeah.
Like,
it can be like that with bands, like the Doors' first two albums.
Yeah,
that's the beginning of the Doors' history.
Yes,
and they were stewing for years in the first two albums, and then it was like, third album, like this is kind of a half crappy weird song.
Sure.
We were playing sound checks, and then it never was quite the same with the Doors,
Yeah,
right. It also jives with my theory that all the best things from the 90s like started in the 80s, like Nirvana started in the 80s, like the Melvins started in the 80s, Mighty Bosstones started in the 80s.
Hey now.
I just said that because Tom's wearing his two-tone shirt.
Hell yeah, man. Gotta represent.
Oh my Lord. So anyway,
Got my billiard ball eight ball keychain with it.
Oh hell yeah, brother! You got
It's coming back. You gotta be ready, guys.
Got your martini, your number 13 dice.
Tom
martini.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
All right,
That's
so
2025. That's my project 2025.
Oh god.
Make Scott cool again.
Oh my god. Here
All
we
right.
go. All right.
I'm kidding.
I think I'm kidding. That's amazing. Okay. Well, I think I'm kidding. All right. That was 1 fucking hour on Boogie Nights. And let's talk about next week.
1998.
Here we are. We are getting to the sunset years of the 90s.
The home stretch.
Here we are. Home stretch, homies. So this, we sort of said earlier tonight, Julianne Moore has made multiple appearances on our 90s, the films we've picked for the decade. There's another individual who's making multiple appearances on this, on the films that we're picking. Last week, shout out, was 1 fucking hour in Cable Guy, of course, directed by our good friend Ben Stiller. And
Benny Stiller.
Yeah, Benny Stiller. Benny Stiller. And so next week we're going to revisit Mr. Benny Stiller for another film, which is a fascinating backstory, fascinating true life parallel, and a great movie. We're talking 1 fucking hour on Permanent Midnight.
Dude. Still underappreciated.
Yes.
I mean, it needs more love because it's great. It's a great 90s movie, and it's total entertainment, and it's rendered beautifully, and it should be a fun hour.
Oh, it's going to be great. I cannot wait. Big fan, and we're going to get into the backstory, and we're going to get into the film itself, of course. So if you've not yet seen it, we're going to be doing 1 fucking hour on Permanent Midnight. Get your pre-watch in. Join us for that next week. And also join us up on the Patreon, patreon.com/1fucking-hour. Sign up there, just $5 a month for the new bonus episode, which we're going to record right now on the 90s films that we've not seen. Okay, and then try our best attempts at guessing the plots.
Right, blindly groping to a synopsis is, yeah.
Oh my God, I'm very.
It's going to be weird.
It's going to be very weird.
Yellow. It's yellow, orange, red. How off are we from the actual synopsis?
Totally. So we're going to get into that.
You got to check that out, everybody.
You got to check it out. Yeah, because we're going to record that right now. But by the time you hear this episode, it'll be up on the Patreon. So get up there if you want to watch that, or click the join button underneath the YouTube video to become a Momen of the YouTube channel. And you can also get it there. Same perks, same price, same shit. And we appreciate your guys' support of the channel. All right, guys, anything else before we get the fuck out of here and record that? Or are we good?
Let's see you guys in 1998.
Yeah, we'll see you in 98. Of course.
The middle of Bill's second term, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Not much. It's kind of a sleepy time in American culture.
It's true. It's until things
then
really...
again, he had a scandal starting.
We didn't quite get into 97 and just what a twisted year that was. It was a horrible year. Oh, it was awful.
Was it? Really? I don't remember.
Ironically,
no, I mean just culturally. Everything aside from this movie.
Well, wrestling fans.
I would need evidence to back that up. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Sugar Ray.
Well, musically maybe.
Well, look at my shirt, yo. What's up? Sugar Ray, yo.
Well,
I don't know. 97 was not 2002.
No,
there's that article that's it's the AV Club article about how it's the worst 2 weeks in music history, where in 97, and I gotta say it really hit me because it is just
it's bad. It's things
band after band that I despise as a teenager.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But wrestling fans will know that 97 is often discussed as the greatest year of wrestling.
Wow.
So people often cite 97.
Not have guessed that. Hip hop was kind of limping along, so I can back that up. It was not the greatest time. 97. There's still shit, but 97 was a little goofy.
Yeah,
it's only getting worse.
Sure.
It was P Diddy times. So
So all right,
not cool. Not cool, bro.
We can't leave you tonight, everybody, without your Moment of Zen. All right, everybody, we'll see you back here for 1998. And get your pre-watch in, and we'll see you later, man. All right, everybody, take care. See you soon.
Feel the heat.
Bye-bye.
album. I loved it.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.